Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, we live.
All right, today is August 16th, 2023. The time is 5:15 p.m. and I'm calling to order the Ballpark City Council special meeting. City Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Mayor Estrada here, Mayor Pro Tem Garcia. Let the record reflect that Mayor Pro Tem Garcia is not present. Councilmember Avila.
Here.
Councilmember Ayala.
Here.
Councilmember Damian. Let the record reflect Councilmember Damian is not present. Thank you.
Mr. City Clerk, both Councilmember Garcia and Councilmember Damian will not be able to make the 5 o'clock.
Noted. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you for that, City Clerk. At this moment, we will move on to open public communications. City Clerk, is there anybody looking to speak?
At this time, we have not received requests for comment.
All right, and seeing that nobody is looking to speak, we will move on with our open session study session. So I will go ahead and close the public communications. And we will start with our presentation to provide information and resources to the community on how to identify and respond to opioid overdose, presented by Anthony Bañuelos, Director of Operations from End Overdose, a nonprofit organization.
My partner is right here with me, if you don't mind. City Council, is it okay if I set this down somewhere? So I will be conducting just a regular training. This is going to be offered to the public. Pass some waivers around. It's just a release of liability on. Certification card. And you took our training, got your training certified and carried for the lockdown. In the event that you use one of the kits that we issue out to you, hold on to that card and we'll reissue another kit at no cost, okay? Also, we do table a lot of events out in the community. So if you run into us at any event, present that card to us and we'll give you a naloxone device. Now, my name is Anthony and I'm with End Overdose. Now, before we start this training, is everybody familiar with this device right here? Everybody seen this right here? No?
I've seen pictures of it. Never.
Oh, yes, a couple, yeah, right? Okay, a couple knows. Now, this right here is an intranasal device. It's an intranasal naloxone. It's real simple, real easy to use. You're gonna hold the device like so. 2 fingers up top, thumb on the plunger. Now you're gonna insert in the nostril just as far as the fingers let you, and you're gonna hit the plunger once. Now this is a demonstration device. If you click the top, it'll unlock it. Now, a real device is gonna come in a case just like this. This is a real device right here. Now, a real device is one time use and done. So once you use it once, you cannot use it again. So I'm gonna pass this around. I want everybody to get comfortable, familiar with that device. Just take a tiny beat, you're comfortable with administering the medication. Now, a couple things we're going to cover in this training. We're going to cover the signs and symptoms. We're going to cover the steps to take. We're going to cover the California Good Samaritan law that protects you here in California. Now, the purpose of this training is to get you more comfortable, more confident with taking action, right? Because the worst thing you can do is what? Nothing at all. Absolutely right. Can we change slide? Balloon. Just a little disclaimer before we start this training. This training is in no way a substitute for immediate medical attention in the event of an overdose. This training is for educational purposes. Overdose and drug use are discussed throughout the presentation. Now, one thing I'm going to emphasize throughout this training, and this is real important. The minute that we identify something is wrong, I'm sorry, I didn't speak that. Sorry about that. Sorry. Okay. Now, one thing I'm going to emphasize throughout this training, and it's really important, the minute that we identify something is wrong, we want to pick up the phone and call 911. We want to get that process started. Now, this training is intended to keep this person alive long enough so the trained medical professionals can arrive on scene. So real important, we call 911, we get help on the way as soon as possible. If we could click the next slide, please. So just a little bit about who we are. So End Overdose is a 501c3 nonprofit organization based in Los Angeles, California, working to end drug-related overdose deaths through education, medical intervention, and public awareness. Now, education. We educate individuals on the signs and symptoms and also the steps to take. Medical intervention. We cover the Good Samaritan law that protects you here in California. We encourage you to seek medical attention. You seek medical help.
We also distribute naloxone, the medication that they use to reverse an opioid overdose. And public awareness. We're destigmatizing this conversation. This is something that we need to talk about in our society. Who knows somebody has heard of somebody's overdosed in the past? Anybody? That's real common. It's real common nowadays. It's a big problem that we're facing in our society nowadays. So we need to spread this education. We need to spread this knowledge. Now, at End Overdose, we make training easy, accessible with the click of a button. Right now, we're certifying individuals all across the United States with our online training. Anywhere in LA County or surrounding areas, we will show up in person. Last year, we distributed over 51,000 doses of naloxone, 130,000 fentanyl testers, and our goal for this year is to double those numbers. And we are well on our way to meet that marker. If we get the next slide, please. Now, first off, we're going to talk numbers. Now, overdose death are the number one cause of death in individuals 18 to 45. We're seeing anywhere on average from 150 deaths per day from synthetic opioids like fentanyl. And our youth numbers are up 333% from last year. So these numbers are staggering and they can get worse each and every day. Can we get the next slide, please? Now, opioids. Who's got opioids in the room? Opioids? Now, opioids are a classification of drugs. Many of these listed: codeine, morphine, oxycontin, Percocet, fentanyl, Vicodin, heroin, methadone. Now, say I'm writing a prescription to an opioid, let's say Oxycontin, right? When I ingest that pill, the opioid neurotransmitter in my brain is going to bind with the receptor site. Now, when this happens, this is going to cause pleasurable effects. It's going to cause pain relief, right? That's what it's meant to do. Now, opioids are a CNS depressant, which means this is going to have an effect on my breathing, my emotions, and my sensations. If we can get the next slide, please. Now, fentanyl. What's heard of fentanyl in the room? So advanced fentanyl. Now, fentanyl is an opioid painkiller that is often being used to lace other drugs. Now, fentanyl, it does have its medicinal purposes. It was originally created in 1960 as a pain medication for cancer patients. But the problem that we're seeing nowadays, it's legally manufactured. Now, when this happens, it's not being regulated in any lab. Real inconsistent, real potent. Fentanyl is highly addictive, extremely lethal. It produces a stronger, intense high, and it's cheaper to manufacture. Now, fentanyl is 50 times more powerful than heroin, 100 times more powerful than morphine. So this stuff really packs a punch. Can we get the next slide, please? A lethal dose of fentanyl is considered 2 milligrams. Now, just to give you a better idea what that looks like, think the size of a sesame seed. Now, it doesn't take much. Now, nearly 42% of pills that were tested last year contained a lethal dose of fentanyl in there. Now, and overdose, we encourage, if it didn't come prescribed from a doctor, we do offer fentanyl test strips. Some individuals are written prescription to opioids. They run out. They think that they can get it down the street. We encourage, do not take it, test the substance. If we get the next slide, please. Now, the next few slides, we're going to cover what is an opioid overdose. Now, this happens when we take in a combination or too many opioids at the same time. When this happens, this is going to cause respiratory depression. Now, respiratory depression is defined as anything under 12 breaths a minute is considered respiratory depression. Now, this is real important. The brain in 5 minutes without oxygen can cause permanent brain damage, soon followed by death. So the minute that we see something is wrong, I want to spring into action, right? I want to start taking the next indicated step, okay? Next slide, please. Now, we're going to get into a little bit of science right now. Now, look at tell me what a neurotransmitter is. I kind of covered it a few slides ago. Anybody? I'm sorry. I like to get it. I like to get everybody interactive. Anybody want? Sorry? Yeah, I'm sorry. What's your name? Katie. Round of applause for Katie. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, simply put, a neurotransmitter, it's a chemical messenger. Now, like I explained earlier, if I ingest any opioids on the left, opioid neurotransmitter is going to bind with that receptor site. It's going to cause pleasurable effects. It's going to cause pain relief. Now, the same thing with breathing on the right. When that oxygen neurotransmitter binds with that receptor site, my body then carries out that action to breathe on its own. We get the next slide, please. Now, this is the brain during an overdose. We ingested too many opioids at the same time. So when this happens, the brain is flooded by all these opioid neurotransmitters, and they're getting in places that they don't belong, and they sit and they block these other receptor sites. So that message for my body to breathe on its own isn't getting across. I'm going into respiratory depression. Get the next slide, please. Next few slides, we're going to cover what is naloxone. Who's heard of naloxone in the room? Naloxone, right? Yeah, naloxone. We'll get the next slide, please. Now, naloxone is an opioid antagonist. right? Now, simply put, it's an antidote to overdose. Now, this is the medication that they use to reverse an opioid overdose. Now, it can restore breathing within 2 to 3 minutes, but multiple doses may be needed if breathing does not restore. Okay. Now, naloxone can wear off in 30 to 90 minutes from the time of administration. So real important, we get this individual to the hospital. Say we administer the medication, this person comes out of it, right? They walk off. The medication can wear off. Opioid neurotransmitters are still in the brain. They could bind back to receptor sites, and this person can then go back into an overdose. That's why it's real important we get this individual to the hospital where they can be properly monitored. Get the next slide, please. Don't look familiar. Sorry, top left, Narcan, right? Yeah. Now, Narcan is just a brand name. Naloxone is a generic name for the medication, comes in many forms. Today, we're going to be covering how to administer intranasally. Cloxotil is also a brand name. There's also auto-inject system, intramuscular as well. Now, this is all the same medication, and it's all going to do the same thing. It's going to reverse an opioid overdose. Next slide, please. Now, how naloxone works, right? Because the problem is where? My brain, right? If we get the next slide. Now, on the left, like I explained earlier, opioid neurotransmitters are blocking receptor sites. So on the right, this is what naloxone does. Naloxone rips those opioid neurotransmitters off of those receptor sites. It sits in those receptor sites and then acts like a little force field and allows you to breathe. It restores your breathing again. If we can get the next slide, please. So next, we're going to cover responding in 6 steps. So say we're walking into a room. What are you looking for? Anybody? What's up? Is this person going to be doing jump jacks? On the floor, unconscious, unresponsive. What else? Not breathing. What else? Sweating. Very good. What else? Out the mouth. What else? You guys are on fire tonight. Everybody on fire tonight. Get the next slide, please. Now, there's many signs and symptoms to look for. Now, there's 3 that I really want you to focus on. Now, this is also known as the opioid overdose triad. These are the 3 most common signs and symptoms of an opioid overdose. Now, those 3 signs and symptoms are pinpoint pupils, shallow breathing, and unconscious and unresponsive. Now, this would be a quick inspection. Say we walk into a room, this individual is unconscious and unresponsive. We could check responsiveness with the sternal rub. Responsive, that's a bad sign. Now, breathing. A typical adult breathes 12 to 20 breaths per minute. That's normal. That's regular. Anything under 12 breaths a minute is considered respiratory depression. Now, if you look at your chest, normal breathing rate is anywhere from 2 to 3 breaths every 10 seconds, right? We're also looking for depth and rate. Right? Now, if somebody's in respiratory depression, breaths might be real shallow, not as deep. Maybe 1 breath every 10 seconds. Okay. Now, the one that we really want you to focus on is pinpoint pupils. I'm going to flashlight everyone. Pinpoint. Now, a lot of us have a flashlight on our phone, right? Now, if I'm checking these pupils, let's set this down real quick. If I check these pupils, right, a normal reaction to light is, sure, there'll be movement. And that's what we're looking for. That's good. Now, if this person is experiencing an opioid overdose, if I check these pupils, they are non-reactive to light at all, and they are pinpoint, that's a bad sign. That's also known as meiosis. Okay, so the 3 I want you to pay attention to are pinpoint pupils, shallow breathing, unconscious, and unresponsive. If we get the next slide, please. After you administer the medication, you want to call 911 or yell for help. If you have your phone on you, pick up the phone, call 911, get up on the way as soon as possible. If you don't have your phone and you scream, yell for help, get somebody's attention, okay? If you're in a room full of individuals, you might be direct with somebody, give them a task. Sir, do me a favor, call 911. I believe this person's overdosing. Someone's screaming, call 911 in a room full of individuals. You know what I'm thinking? Somebody else got it, right? So point, be direct, give somebody a task, give them a job. Get the next slide, please. Now, in California, you are protected by the Good Samaritan law, okay? Now, there's a variant of this law in all states. Depending on what state you're in, you just have to brush up on that law. Now, in California, we're a little more lax on our drug laws. A simple possession is a misdemeanor, as opposed to, say, Texas or Florida, we're a little more harder on their drugs. And that's pretty much where the line differs. Now, in California, if you help anybody in good faith, good manner from an overdose, this protects you from any civil damages. This law also protects the individual who is under the influence of a controlled substance, in possession of a controlled substance, and in possession of drug-related paraphernalia. Do not be afraid to pick up that phone and get help on the way, okay? Now, there are certain limitations to this law that you need to be aware of. We get the next slide, please. Now, you could still be charged with other crimes. Say you're trespassing in a stolen vehicle, breaking and entering. You're not exempt from other charges. If you're on parole or probation, it's still likely you have to deal with that violation with your probation officer. Okay. If you have more drugs in possession than for personal use. Okay. So there is a limitation to this law. Also, if you obstruct medical and law enforcement personnel, as soon as they arrive on scene, you did your part to save somebody's life. Remove yourself from the situation and let them take control. Okay. We get the next slide, please. After we call 911, we want to check responsiveness. We want to make sure that this individual is not sleeping, right? Now, there's a couple ways that we could do this. We could shout the individual's name. We want to lean more towards painful stimulation, respectively, of course. Now, there's a few things that we could do. Is everybody familiar with the sternal rub? Sternal rub? It's real simple, real easy to do. You're going to get your hand ball in a fist. Now, your knuckles, you're going to grind on the sternum just like a washboard. Real uncomfortable. Real uneasy. If this person's sleeping and I do that to them, more than likely they're going to wake up, right? Real painful, right? They're going to snap. What are you doing, man? You know, so if they are unresponsive to the stimulation, that's a bad sign. We're going to move on to the next step. We're going to move on to step 4. We're going to check for breathing and a pulse. Now, when checking for breathing, remember, a typical adult breathes 12 to 20 breaths per minute. We're also looking for depth and rate. Now, when checking for breathing, it's kind of hard to see the chest rise and fall if I'm staring straight down at it. So what I want you to get used to is tilt the head back on an angle, look at the chest on an angle. By doing so, we're better able to see the chest rise and fall. Not only that, we could hear for a breath and we could feel for a breath. So anytime they exhale, to be warm on your skin. A typical adult breathes 12 to 20 breaths per minute. Anything under that is respiratory depression. Now we'll also check the individual's pulse. Right, a lot of us are familiar with the carotid. Right, typically that's a stronger beat. Now, a regular pulse is anywhere from 60 to 100 beats per minute. 60 to 100, that's normal. That's regular. Okay. Now, what we want to do is we'll count to 6, multiply it by 10, and that'll give us the individual's pulse. Now we check for breathing. Breathing under 12, pulse is under 60. Not looking good. We're going to move on to step 5. We're going to administer naloxone. If we get the next slide, please. Naloxone, once again, is the medication that they use to reverse an opioid overdose. It's real simple, real easy to use. If we get the next slide. Did everybody get a chance to try that demonstration device? Did we pass that around? No? Pass it around? Is it right there? Okay, hold on. Now, it's real simple, real easy to use. I want to make sure everybody gets a shot at this, try this out. So, here's the demonstration device, real device once I use some demo. Now we want to make sure that the individual is lying flat on their back. Okay. Oh, well, we went a little ahead. But we want to make sure they're lying flat on their back. We're going to peel it out the package. We're going to hold the device like I instructed you to. Top thumb on the plunger, insert in the nostril as far as the fingers let you, and hit the plunger once. Okay. Now if we could go to the next slide, please. Now, after we administer, on each one of the kits that we provide is a CPR mask. Comes a little keychain. I have them here. Come a little keychain, right? Now these have a one-way valve on it, right? Which means if I put this on upside down, it's not going to work. Now, I have little instructions on the top, bottom. There's one right here. So what we want to do is we want to create an airtight seal. Put the valve over the mouth. Put your hand in a diamond shape. Diamond shape. Create an airtight seal. Tilt the head back. Now we want to give this person a breath every 5 seconds. Okay, so basically, anytime you exhale, we want to give this person a breath just enough to see the chest rise and fall, rise and fall. Now, if it's 3 minutes and this individual is still unresponsive, if we have a second dose available, administer a second dose in the opposite nostril and continue rescue breathing. If you don't have a second dose available, continue rescue breathing until help arrives. Now, see this individual is starting to become responsive, which is a good sign, right? We want to turn them on their left side in the recovery position. Now, the reason for this being is if you administer naloxone to the individual, they might be nauseous, they might throw up. This prevents them from choking on their vomit, okay? We get the next slide, please. So we're going to do a little quick overview. So step 1, we're going to recognize the signs and symptoms. What are the 3 I want you to pay attention to? Pupils. What else? Breathing. And what else? Unconscious and unresponsive. Very good. Step 2, we're going to call 911 or yell for help. Remember, in California, you're protected by the Good Samaritan law. Do not be afraid to pick up that phone and get help on the way. Step 3, we're going to check responsiveness. How are we checking responsiveness? Stern or low. Very good. If they're unresponsive, that's a bad sign. We're going to move on to the next step. We're going to check for breathing and the pulse. When checking for breathing, a typical adult breathes from what to what? 12 to 20. Very good. We're also going to check the individual's pulse. A regular pulse is from 60 to 100. Very good. On fire. All right. So we check for breathing under 12, pulse under 60, right? Not looking good. We're going to go on to step 5. We're going to administer naloxone, the medication that they use to reverse an opioid overdose. Real simple, real easy to use. Did everybody get a chance to try the demonstration device? I hear it clicking over there. How easy was that? Pretty easy, right? Pretty easy. Make sure they're lying flat on their back. Insert in the nostril as far as the fingers let you. Hit the plunger once. After we administer the medication, we want to start rescue breathing. We want to give this person a breath every 5 seconds. Now, if it hits how long and they are unresponsive, will we administer a second dose if we had it available? 3 minutes. 3 minutes in the opposite nostril, okay? If we don't have a second dose available, what are we going to do? Continue rescue breathing until help arrives. If this individual is starting to become responsive, we're going to turn them on which side? On their left side in the recovery position. Very good. We get the next slide, please. Now, just a couple of things to consider after someone overdoses. Please ensure that they get to the hospital immediately. It could be something else like threatening. We don't know what that is. We want to make sure we get this person in the hospital. Keep in mind, naloxone wears off in 30 to 90 minutes from the time of administration. So, say we administer naloxone, this person gets up, walks off, medication wears off. Opioid neurotransmitters could rebind back to receptor sites. This person could go back into an overdose. That's why it's real important we get them to the hospital where they can be properly monitored. Now, naloxone has no life-threatening side effects. All right, so if you misdiagnose somebody, no harm, no foul, they'll be perfectly fine. Okay. Naloxone can cause withdrawal effects. The person might be nauseous, might cause cramps. The person might be extremely irritated. Now, remember, your safety is our number one concern. Your safety is paramount. If this individual is trying to engage in an altercation, remove yourself from the situation and stand at a safe distance. If you have a chance, point the paramedics in the right direction and make sure that this person gets the help that they need. Okay. Now, this is kind of crazy, but it happens all the time. The person may want to get high again. Obviously, you can't force anybody to, but just do your best to make sure that they don't. We get the next slide, please. If you can, please connect with us on IG and Overdose. If you know anybody that could benefit from this training and they're not here right now, refer them to our website, www.endoverdose.net. We're certifying individuals online right now, all across the country right now. We distribute this life-saving medication for free. If you know anybody that wants to set up an in-person training, reach out to us as well. We got a high school and middle school program as well. Is there any questions? City Council, I just want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for this opportunity. I have kids for everybody right here. I'm sorry, I didn't expect this many people. But if I can, I'll probably get everybody's information. Is it okay if I give an naloxone kit for everybody in attendance right here? Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And of course, we can connect and see Manny, and we can set up something for the community. And I think that'll be a great training. We never know. Might need some sort of training like that, and doesn't hurt to have it on hand.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
And let's send it out to the school district, see if they're interested.
Yes, we will share with Ballin Park Unified School District.
Of course, thank you to Anthony for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm here. Goal is, it's just let the community. I just recently love to get a community training up and going. We're beginning that community training, talking out of memory. We just want to let the community. Also, our website on awesome.
We'll have one of our staff members get all the information so we can get something going here. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we're going to get we're going to go ahead and continue, and I believe Sam has the next presentation regarding the Barnes Park.
Thank you, Mayor. So today we have a treat for you. We have a update presentation for you on the Barnes Park Stormwater Infiltration Project. I have the city's engineering team and the design team. So Romani Vasilius and David Lopez are here with the city. Katie Harrell is here with CWE, the design and engineering team. And then you also have Gary Vasquez with David Volz on the park improvements. And so now I'd like to hand it over to Romani to start off the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, city staff, members of the audience. I'm excited today to present to you Barnes Park Stormwater Capture Project. This project has been in the work for 5 years, and it's considered to be one of the biggest project, if not the biggest project in the city when it comes to cost and the disturbed area. First, we're gonna go over what we're gonna present to you today. So we're gonna start first by the project milestones, like background about the project history. Then we move on to the project cost and funding. Then construction timeline and when we expect the project to start and end. Then the project area and why we selected the site. Then project features. And we move on to storm drain system improvements. And finally, park enhancement. So in May 2020, we submitted an application to ask for a grant. However, before that date, by about 2 years, the city had like a small fund, seed fund, to like have a preliminary design to apply for grants. That was about 2 years before that date. But when construction, like to prepare for construction, we submitted that grant. And in November of the same year, 2020, we got awarded about $14.7 million for this project. We awarded the project in May 2021 to CWE for design. But we did not stop there when regarding to grants. In December 2021, we applied for a second grant for about $3 million from State of California Parks and Recreation. And in November 2022, environmental study was completed. In January of this year, we did the first public outreach event. And again, in May, we did the second public outreach event. And I'm happy to announce that August of this year, project plans are completed and bid ready. And I will move on to our associate engineer, David Lopez.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm David Lopez. I'm the project manager for this project. Tonight, I'll be talking to you about the project and starting off with the funding. So this project is estimated to be between $17 to $20 million in cost. And this range is due to market conditions and construction being the way it has been. And we've secured, like Romani said, $17.7 million, which encompasses 74% of the project budget. And when we received Prop 68, that's about $3 million, and that's about 15% of the project budget, which is about $17 million at the low end of the scale for the project estimate. Should we go over that project estimate, about $3 million can be made available through Measure W, Quimby, and other related appropriate funds. For the construction schedule, we're going to be requesting approval of plan specifications and authorization to solicit bids on September 20th. Then we're going to solicit bids soon after on September 25th, opening bids on October 26th, which gives us about 4 weeks of bid time. And we'll plan on awarding contract on November 15th and starting construction at the beginning of January 2024. And 18 months later, we'll have a nice project around July, August of 2025. Located on the northeast corner of the I-605 and the I-10 freeway, Barnes Park is the most westerly park and second largest park within our park system at 6.44 acres. Despite having very nice parks, Baldwin Park is still considered park poor. Baldwin Park is mostly built out and we have little opportunity for green space recreation and park expansion. Barnes Park is also surrounded by a disadvantaged community, which is about 100% disadvantaged. One of the reasons we selected Barnes Park as our regional park project is that it is city-owned and there's no need to spend additional funding to acquire additional land. On the north side of the park, we also have a storm drain system that drains about 440 acres of mostly residential land through a 81-inch pipe, storm drain pipe, that is owned by LA County Flood Control District. Through a feasibility study, this is going back 2018, 2019, we did a study that found that the soil at Barnes Park infiltrates water at about the rate of 1 foot per hour, which is really good. And this is the reason why the infiltration system was decided to be used in this case. And we have a few regional partners or surrounding people that are going to, or cities that are going to benefit from this park, which will include El Monte, Industry, La Puente, and Irwindale. Once completed, the project will greatly benefit our disadvantaged community by providing top-notch recreation opportunities. Pollution reduction will be achieved by removing trash, heavy metals like copper, lead, selenium, and zinc from rainwater. By removing contaminants and storing the stormwater, it will be used to recharge the upper San Gabriel River watershed basin. New planted trees will help reduce the urban heat island effect. New plants and trees will also contribute to the reduction of CO2 and greenhouse gases. Additionally, localized flood risk will be mitigated, which I think Katie will go into a little bit. These are just some of the benefits. Now I'd like to bring up the design team, starting with Katie, who's going to be presenting the storm water improvements, and thereafter will be Gary from DVD, the architects, who will be providing the park improvements. Katie?
Hi, thanks. I'm Katie Harrell from CWE. I'm the project manager and design engineer for the project. So we're going to show a video of that demonstrates some of the stormwater improvements that will be obtained through the project implementation. So in this first part of the video, you can see the city in fuchsia color, and then within it, it's within the San Gabriel River watershed, and that is the watershed that will benefit from the proposed improvements. The red boundary here outlines the watershed that's tributary to the project, and those blue storm drains are what will be diverted from to capture runoff that will be conveyed into the park for infiltration. It's about 440 acres of the neighborhood surrounding the area. Here you can also see 2 yellow highlighted areas, and in these areas there is known flooding, and so as part of the project there'll be some drainage improvements that will help mitigate the flooding that is observed in these areas. In this slide, this portion, you can see the storm drain. There's a diversion on the existing LA County Flood Control District storm drain north of the park. And on the south side, there are several inlets that will also capture the drainage in the neighborhood. Once that drainage is captured, it'll be pre-treated and conveyed to that box in the middle, which represents the subsurface infiltration system, which you'll see again here. The system is about 20 feet deep and has the capacity to capture about 16 acre feet per storm event. And then after that, the system will be buried underground and the surface will be restored to include several different park features and amenities, which Gary will show more about. But those include dog park areas, soccer court, soccer fields, playground, a futsal court, basketball courts, and additional parking at the site.
Hey, good evening. I'm Gary Vasquez. I'm a landscape architect with David Bowles Design. Our firm does mostly park design throughout California, northern as well as southern. We're excited about this project. It's, as David mentions, about a 6.4 acre park site. And we've worked closely with city staff early on in coming up with some of these park improvements that you'll be seeing. And I have a short little 2-minute video that our design team put together, kind of help visualize. You know, it's one thing to look at a design, a bird's eye kind of 2D, but in this case, it really tells, I think, a better idea, gives you a better idea of some of these improvements that you'll see. So most of the park, I should mention, the existing building, a few of the existing workout equipment you have there with the shade canopy will remain as is. We're going to be protecting that in place. A lot of the trees that you see throughout the site will be protected in place as well, except for obviously where we're going to be, Katie's going to be putting in that big water infiltration facility. But we're going to run through a quick video, and if I can have Romani go ahead and start that, I can just kind of briefly talk a little bit about it as we go. This is right basically in, okay, the southern end, the dog park area. We're going to have 2 different dog areas for dogs, a small dog and large dog, about a 3/4 acre site for the larger dog and about a 1/2 acre for some of the smaller dogs. Have some seating, fountains. This is taking a look at the fields. Underneath that field will be the water infiltration facility. We're redesigning the playground. We're focusing our design to be an all-inclusive facility, play facility to accommodate people with various different ages. And the theme of it is pollination, bees and butterflies and the insects that help us pollinate things. So you're going to see a lot of yellows and oranges. This is a fountain, or that was quickly a fountain in front of the community center. 2 basketball courts. Just north. And as Katie mentioned, a futsal court on the farther end of the park site there. It'll be fenced. We'll have shade structures for picnicking to replace the current shade structures, kind of bring them up to date. Throughout the park, we'll have various areas where they can picnic. So just to mention the parking, we'll be expanding the parking on site almost approximately twice as much as what you currently have. And will also be designing parking along the street, angled parking to provide additional parking for not just park users, but I'm sure a lot of people that live across the street as well. I'm going to turn it back over to, I believe, David, and I'm here. If you have any questions regarding this, I'd be happy to answer. I know it was kind of a quick little presentation. Again, we have a lot going on in this park. One thing I didn't mention were some nice bioswales and planted with some native grasses and things like that. So the plantings are going to be lush, and it's going to be a nice facility for people to walk, exercise. There's a looped walking path. We'll have trail mileage markers along the way. What else did I may have forgotten? We're going to replace your flagpoles at the front of the building. We'll even have a space close to the playground where you'll be able to set up a large screen to project movies and have movies in the park type of thing where people can sit in the field on the grass and then view the screen area where the movies would be projected. So it's again going to be a great project. We look forward to see it start under construction. And again, I'd be happy to answer any more questions if you have those. So
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, team. Before we move into questions, I do want to mention two other team members that were crucial in this project that are here. That is Helen Hernandez from Parks and Rec and Giovanni Viramontes from engineering. The videos will be, I'll send a link to council for the videos after tonight or sometime tomorrow so that you can enjoy the videos. But again, I just want to summarize, we are extremely excited about this project. We've been working on it for over 5 years, and we are so happy to unveil this over to you and let you know that we are planning to take it to bid in September. So in the second meeting in September, we'll have the authorization come to you, and then shortly after that, it'll go out to the public. So thank you, and now let's open it up for questions.
I don't have any questions. Oh, sorry, Mayor, may I? I don't have any questions, but I'm just as excited because we've been talking about it for so long, especially the dog park. So many people in our community talk about, we need a dog park. We need somewhere to walk our pets. I see a lot of people walking their pets around Morgan Park, but once we get that park going, I'm sure they're going to love it there as well. So thank you for all the work you have been doing. I know projects take a long time, but it's going to be well worth it. It looks beautiful in the renderings that you have here. So I'm super excited and I can't wait till that day comes. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, me neither. No questions, but as Councilwoman said, I think we're all excited for the dog park. I know everybody's I don't know. There's a dog craze going on. I've seen more dogs around Baldwin Park, which is good. It's nice. Again, also, it brings more people into the park, which hopefully it becomes a trend to have people use the park, enjoy the park, and take advantage of the services there. So good work, everybody.
Just a very brief question, Sam. And the current parking right now has a canopy, solar canopy. Is that going to go away, or is it going to be replaced with a new solar canopy?
No, so the canopy as it exists today, it'll remain.
It'll stay.
Yeah. The additional parking that we're bringing in is along the street.
Okay.
All right, so it is going to be a disruptive project to the community now. It is going to close the park for 18 months before we open it up. So there is going to be a lot of truck activity, which we plan to have a very wide informational and campaign announcing the disruptions and so that we can get ahead of it and mitigate it.
Can we walk around the neighborhood? I mean, I'll help if you need us to actually pass out flyers, because a lot of times the notifications or whatever events we may be having, the mayor is going to lead it, by the way, start walking and passing out the information to the residents around that area so they'll know of the disruption and the fact that the park's going to be closed for a while. But if we show them renderings, so they actually get excited about the park and the reason why it's going to be closed. If we can start educating the community ahead of time so that it doesn't come as a surprise to them. And mayor will be the first one knocking on doors and dropping off. We can just do door hangers if, something that we can put.
Yeah, we'll plan to get well ahead of that.
Yeah.
As a way of perhaps mitigating the impact, I'm thinking whether folks can still walk along the side of where the closure begins, right? I mean, we dropped the fence, and from the fence in, it's closed off. But can they walk on the outside of the fence? People walk their dogs or just walk for exercise.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder whether that is possible. What do you think, Helen?
walkway available. On the front side will not be accessible because we are redoing parking as diagonal parking on the street. So
Hmm.
we already do have banners ready to go. That'll be announced in the construction.
And if you don't want to walk, we can always send mailers to that area.
Right.
Mayor.
Yeah, so we are going to have a big staging area for the contractor there. So it will be difficult to have the park open during certain times, but we'll try to phase it as much as we can and open it where it's appropriate and mitigate it that way.
Let's say there was no rain and no setbacks. What is the estimated time that will be completed?
I hope Katie doesn't get mad. She does. So 18 months is yeah.
18 months for construction. Obviously, that doesn't include if it's a really rainy season. That could have some impact on the schedule, but the construction duration of the exercise equipment and recreation building will be close to that. There will be small portions of around it. The idea is that those areas will remain.
And the
Right, so-
construction does start after 7 a.m., right?
Right. So we are adding a little bit in the timeline to accommodate for unforeseen like that. But if there is no rain, we hope to get it done in 12 to 14 months.
Well, we do need the rain, so
You'll take a short delay
either, yes,
in
exactly.
exchange for the
We're
rain.
That way we
hoping
can
that
water.
there is no rain, that it comes after the project's open so that we can capture most of it.
That's a long time with no rain.
Okay, thank you, team. And with that, we'd like to close the presentation.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that, Sam. So at this moment, it seems that we are all done with our open session items and we will move on to our closed session. And then we will see everybody at the beginning of our regular meeting at 7 o'clock.